Hello again, this is David Lucas, and we're looking at the the theme for Module 6. And I have to admit straight up that this was and is the most painful module for me to work on. Painful because I have a lot of feelings, and often these feelings interrupt my academic life. And so in this case, as we talk about eugenics and the ideas of normalcy, I become very sentimental and I become very saddened by some of the past and the history, which you'll find out as you read through the text and as you do your normal searches on the internet. Eugenics, if you've never heard of it, was a social movement that was very popular in the early 20th century. The modern field originally was formulated by Sir Francis Galton in about 1883. Now, he was a half-cousin to Charles Darwin. And so think in terms of that era when everyone was talking about mud people and all of that as some of those wild kinds of theories and hypotheses that were espoused by many at the time. But it became a discipline and a study, and in fact eugenics became an academic discipline accepted and supported by many colleges and universities in the early 20th century, which sort of saddens me. If you don't know what eugenics really means, it involves the idea that genetics and the Darwinistic theories of passing on certain hereditary kinds of markings, various kinds of IQs, intelligence quota, the capabilities were passed on and could be eliminated by sort of controlling the population. And it was first implemented, and this is what probably broke my heart, in the 1900s right here in the United States. The United States and professors and scientists right here in the United States in the early 1900s were the greatest proponents of this. And in fact, we had grand academic conferences and conventions in London, New York, and in Chicago and other places to propose and to forward the idea of eugenics. These legislations that were passed were for the sterilization of defective parts or defective tendencies in regard to human beings right here in the United States. I don't want you to take my word for this. I want you to look this up and do some thinking about this, because as I said, this breaks my heart. But what happened with eugenics was that anybody that had a disability, of course, they didn't want to pass or didn't want to see those disabilities passed on to others. For example, if some person was short of stature, they didn't want that passed on, so they would refuse to allow you to be to get married, to have intercourse with other people, even as far that they would sterilize you. Sometimes they would incarcerate the people. It's something that today we find absolutely abhorrent, but in these times, in the early 1900s, it was a science, so to speak. It was a pseudoscience, but it was a science. And so what I want you to do is to think about your reaction to this and how you think things have changed and what your feelings are about this. How did eugenics fall out of good favor? I'd like to say that we all came to our senses here in the United States, and we realized that this was not the way in which we should treat other human beings. With ethics took over and we became more dignified and sophisticated. That's not true. What happened was the Germans, and especially Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler became a big fan of eugenics and in fact wrote about it in Mein Kampf. And then they began to practice to an extreme fashion eugenics, which later was demonstrated in their attack on the Jews as being a subhuman or not up to par kind of people. And of course we know the story there, the incarcerations, the terrible deaths, the death camps, And this fell out of favor. Eugenics fell out of favor because it became associated with Adolf Hitler, and it became associated with the SS, and became associated with Nazi Germany. My question to you is for you to think about during this module is, what would have happened if Adolf Hitler had not picked this up and had not ended in the demise in which he did? I wonder, would you have allowed this? Would you have spoken out, or would this have been something you think that you would have been sucked into as well? This is something I want us to ponder here in this module as we think about eugenics and the idea, your idea, my idea of what is normal.